Europe is 2-0 and Korea is 1-2 after the first day of groups. I bet you didn't think I'd be saying that going into day 2 of Busan. And today we've got 6 more games. World's action coming up as the Flash Wolves and Afreeca Freaks face off in our first match where the LMS representatives are aiming to establish themselves at the top of the group. Hello everyone, I'm James Ash Patterson alongside Indiana Frosker and Black Chris, Papa Smithy Smith, and Joshua Jat Leesman as we get the slow zoom here. I like it.
He's a very important player.
Intense preparations for that first game of the day. Papa Smithy's joining us on the World's Countdown and for the Analyst segments throughout the day. You were on the second set of casts yesterday, so you were kind of at the helm of some of the craziness that we saw at the end of the first day of groups. How are you coming down from all that excitement?
Dash, you told me this would be a safe space, and already you're getting me going about yesterday. I'm trying to move forward. The first day is over. The record wasn't good, but I looked at the schedule today, and who knows how long that might go.
It's probably a coincidence, but Korea is winless when Papa Smithy is casting.
Also undefeated is
probably
Europe
nothing to do with that.
when Officio is casting.
Internationally, not domestically. But I am going to make you relive it for just a little while longer before we move on to today. Yesterday, we kicked off the group stage with some massive upsets as EU went 2-0 against Korea with wins from G2 Esports and Team Vitality.
And this is a big turnaround, especially for G2 from the performance that we saw from play-in stage all the way to the group main stage. It was a cross-map macro victory with some signature key picks. Of course, Jizuke going off on the Echo and the Heimerdinger coming alive in that bot lane.
And it was one of those things where, to the aggressive team, the spoils. I love to see aggressive team, assertive teams. You look at the last game, of course, with Vitality picking up the win. They may have made some mistakes in the other game, but they kept doing things. They kept being the aggressors, and the spoils were certainly there.
Yeah, and with the overall 1-2 record, that's actually the worst day 1 win percentage-wise that Korea has ever had at a World Championship that they've attended. So, not the best start for Korea, to say the least.
Right, solid start for EU. Similarly, a not fantastic start for NA, going 0-2, 2 more teams to play today. After day 1, though, G2 and the Flash Wolves are leading Group A, with surprise Team Vitality topping Group B, along with RNG. Over in Group C, Edward Gaming and KT Rolster are currently on top, with the teams in Group D starting their Worlds run today. Now, with yesterday's results in mind, I think it's time to make some sweeping statements to be taken as fact in the first edition of Overreactions for Worlds. So I'm going to kick it off with this one. This is the first time Korea will not get all 3 teams out of groups, and that is with the current Worlds format. We'll make that caveat here. But one of the Korean teams will not make it out, at least one. How do you guys feel about that statement?
Ooh, who wants to, jump onto this one?
So, I think that it is an overreaction after one day, but I do think it is a reaction you could have. The team that I would be worried about would be the Afreeca Freaks in this instance, because I am feeling like Gen G is going to be able to turn it around a little bit more based on what the early game lead they had in that and how close it ended up being. But it did feel like Afreeca got fairly soundly beaten.
But the thing is when you look at Afreeca's group as opposed to Gen G's group, we all decided that that was supposed to be the group of death. So wouldn't it be that Gen G, the turnaround that they need to make is that much larger because the competition surrounding them is that much higher versus Afreeca, who might actually have an easier road exiting groups because it's PVB and G2.
I'm definitely in the middle of 2 different opinions here when it comes to the Korean team that's the most at risk. I actually side with Frosker, and I think that Gen G, you think of their peaks were very good. Of course, their peak in the Worlds qualifier got them here. Regular season, not much to write home about. Yesterday, I was seeing again some of the tendencies they showed in the regular season. So I think they're actually a little bit at risk of being the team that can fall out. So while, again, I'm not 100% endorsing the statement, it's seeming more and more reasonable.
The fact that there is some uncertainty around the statement is, to me, what is most telling about that.
Yeah, I do definitely think it's an overreaction, though. Korea's all-time game win percentage of group stage is still 82%.
Still?
It's all right.
Well, it was coming into this.
Right.
They've lost
so it
2,
dropped,
so it dropped to 80.
1%.
I know.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
exactly. Oh, my goodness. All right, well, try this one on for size. EU is the second best region in the World Championships following their day 1 performance.
I don't even know how to feel about that one. What, they just kicked it out from LPL?
Feel pretty good. Let's go. Well, hey, who knows? Who's to say where LPL lands?
I mean, the easiest answer here is that it's day 1. They were massive upsets. It was a completely different style. Again, what we saw from G2 in play-ins was not what we saw from G2 when they decided to play cross-map, careful League of Legends. Look at this macro play. It was more so the assassin picks, the individual talent that really led them through into play-in. So kind of a change-up of styles and not something that I expect to see going forward.
And I think the definitive answer will be today because we finally see the third team to play here. Fnatic will make their debut, and they're the one with the biggest expectations. Definitely, to me, an overreaction. Very good day for them yesterday, but there's still 7 days of groups for it to come crashing down.
Yeah, if you wanted to be completely literal and say they beat Korea twice yesterday, you would be correct that they would be the second.
They're not the best region in the world.
They would be the best because
Right,
they had to play Korea twice. However, something that I think happens too much in League of Legends analysis in the community is when something happens, it must have been true always and will always be true in the future.
From that point forward.
When really, teams can have bad days, teams can have great days. Because translating G2's performance from their best of 5 against Infinity to the game they had yesterday was completely night and day. It doesn't mean they were awful because they had the best of 5 against Infinity, and it doesn't mean that they are incredible because they were able to beat them. A lot of times the truth lies somewhere in the middle.
All right, here's my last one. The LPL will win the World Championship.
I wasn't aware you were quoting me, Dash.
I like to, give credit to analysts.
He pulled up my Reddit account. He's like, yes, this is the one.
What do you think of that? You think that's a reasonable statement?
I mean, I already said that RNG are going to win. And frankly, between KT and RNG, while KT looked like a very different dominant beast, RNG I just felt were so much more momentum around them. Now, both teams were terrifying. I prefer RNG style, so probably biased, probably weighted on them, but I think they look great.
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to say it definitively, they will win the World Championship, I'm going to say that's an overreaction.
Right.
Based on the fact that the last 5 years they haven't, and the last 3 years they haven't even been in the final.
Right.
They have had some improvement. They did win MSI, but I still think you have to favor Korea.
I personally, I'd love to take the role here of the hardline, LCK will win Worlds, 5 years in a row, but I actually think you need to drill down more. I feel like this statement could be more informational. If you laid it out, RNG will win Worlds this year, I would agree. I actually think the rest of China is kind of irrelevant in the running here. I think RNG is the team to look at. And if you told me, do you think RNG will win Worlds? I'd be right there with you.
Okay, and so is that more a product of where RNG is at, or do you feel that Korea isn't at the level that they typically are when they come into the World Championship?
To me, it's that RNG really has the answers to what Korea is doing right now. I feel like KT may have a faster style, but the slower style of Afreeca and Gen.G is really slowing them down. I think the other Chinese teams play into some of the areas in a best of 5 that a Korean team can take them down over 5 games. But I think RNG is kind of the perfect package in almost every way. If it becomes a super heavy carry top lane meta, maybe that's where they could trip down, but still in a best of 5, I think RNG's got this one.
Someone tweet that out. The perfect package. Papa Smithy, RNG.
There it is. All right, well, let's take a look at what we got in store for today. Today is packed with Worlds action, starting with the Flash Wolves taking on Afreeca Freaks, followed by Feng Vu Buffalo versus G2. From there, Group D hit the rip for their first games, and then we have a matchup with the reigning MSI champions RNG against the winners of Worlds 2017 Gen.G, formerly known as Samsung Galaxy. What a closer to the day.
It's an incredible closure for the day with the defending world champions, as well as just another rematch between RNG and Gen.G, where RNG had their number in the group stage last year before that roster ended up going on to win the world championship.
Gives us that little taste, too, of the LPL versus LCK conversation that we've kind of begun here on the desk.
And it's almost becoming an odyssey at this point between these players specifically. I know there's an interview that just came out. Ming was being interviewed. He goes long time back with Core JJ. Friends of the team recognizing them. They faced off at Asia Games at group stage last time. So RNG and Gen.G, formerly Samsung, are so familiar with each other right now.
Well, we saw the 6 matchups that we have ahead of us. I want to know who you guys have predicted for each of those 6 matches. So we're going to fly up the predictions from all 3 analysts across the day. And we do have some differences. I was a little worried that, like day 1, certain people might go strictly for the favorite.
You seem really unhappy, Frost.
Yeah, okay, what is this? He says, just not 3 seconds ago, I'm really worried for Afreeca. Frost, I agree with you. Then this prediction, we don't know what these predictions are, by the way. Then this prediction flies up. What is that?
It's an Afreeca prediction because Afreeca's good.
But why are you worried then if you're still confident enough to predict
Because they lost to G2, because you don't know if they're going to turn into their better selves. Because I
Gotcha.
thought their worst selves showed up yesterday, and I thought Flash Wolves had their best selves show up yesterday, and I'm looking for Afreeca to attack them through the top lane and potentially find victory.
I definitely stay back from this conversation here because I do also agree that Afreeca Freaks, they showed their worst side of themselves yesterday, and I think they have so many more avenues to victory that today will be a very different result.
So Afreeca Freaks returning to form, you believe, has a solid chance against the Flash Wolves. Frostgren, with that same kind of concept in mind, Afreeca Freaks returning to form, meaning they've improved from what they showed us yesterday, you still think that Flash Wolves has their number?
That's the logic that I actually made the prediction on, that if both teams are playing at their best form, I would still give it to the Flash Wolves. I think they're better suited in the meta right now. And Afreeca, the big blunder that they did make, and normally this is something that they're very good at, was the drafting, overlooking the Heimerdinger. If that was overconfidence, if they just missed it, whatever it was. And already from Flash Wolves, we've seen a lot of the flexibility, bringing the Scion into the mid lane. It was the very first game. I suspect that, like we see from the Flash Wolves, we're going to see more of those trends. I just think Flash Wolves are almost the perfect team to dismantle someone like Afreeca.
Yeah, I drill in almost a little bit further in that, yes, the thing people see is needed to ban the Heimerdinger. I think we can all agree with that. I think also the fact that Afreeca put everything into Kramer, you know, the Kaiser was their big takeaway as the game goes on. He's usually someone they deprioritize, someone that didn't even start for the entirety of the season. So I think also playing elsewhere, it's kind of a two-threat reason that they lost yesterday, and I have much more faith that they'll correct that for today.
Yeah, and we'll have time to keep diving into that one because we're doing a game intro closer to the start.
Right.
What I found so funny about that is the Vitality versus the two Cloud9 predictions.
That's where I was going next.
On this
Why on day 2 are you going for, you think Vitality?
Well, listen, I said during the cooldown after the Cloud9 best of fives that you could make the argument that C9 will beat Vitality. I stand by that. You can make the argument. I am just not going to make that argument
Just not today.
because Vitality just looked so much better yesterday.
Right.
And if both teams are inconsistent, right? I just saw that Vitality was much more willing to pull the trigger, albeit against a slightly easier opponent, than Cloud9. And I think it's going to be a very close game, but I just kind of had to go with who showed up yesterday to show up again today.
But for you two then, why the instilled faith in Cloud9?
I think a lot of people would have backpedaled after yesterday. Like, I was very confident C9 versus Vitality before the tournament starts. Then C9 gets run over by RNG, so you think, okay, got to throw that one out. But honestly, the bot lane so heavily decided and was over so early that it almost feels like the sort of thing you can discount. You can say, okay, it cannot possibly go as poorly in the 2v2 with the change here, and thus I have more faith that around the map they can actually find advantages, and Licorice in particular can get things going in top.
Gotcha. Well, those predictions, of course, will be tested later on in the day. Yesterday, we saw Hjarnen's world-class Heimerdinger, as Papa Smithy mentioned, and to learn more about how G2 utilizes the revered inventor, here's Vedius.
Yesterday, Korea had the misfortune of falling to Hjarnen's Heimerdinger. It's okay though, everyone gets one shot at his Heimer, but maybe you should take this as a lesson that perhaps Hjarnen's Heimer shouldn't be allowed to get through the draft. I mean, just look at his regular season stats. Undefeated in the EU LCS during the summer split, a 57 KDA, 13 CSD at 15. This guy is a monster on the champion, but why is he so good? Well, one of the main reasons why it's so good for him and why it's so good for G2 is because G2 don't typically play around their bot laner. They much prefer to enable their carries in Perks and Wonder. And the great thing about Heimerdinger is that he can soak up a lot of the pressure that gets sent down towards the bot side of the map, especially when it's in this man's hands. We saw some fantastic grenades, we saw his positioning being always on point, and his accuracy with his rockets is second to none. On top of that, even though all this pressure comes towards G2, he's still able to do so much with the champion. Have a look at this play, where he used his teleport towards the top side of the map to convert a bot lane dive into a tower advantage for G2 esports. This just goes to show how proficient he is on the champion. On top of that, it provides them with a lot of flexibility, especially around big objectives like Baron. We looked yesterday as to how they set up around this objective, and the moment they lost vision, they utilized the fact that even though they didn't have a primary tank, they had the turrets soaking up a huge amount of the damage. This also maintains aggro from the objective, and on top of that allows them to easily peel off should an enemy come anywhere near them. This really sets up Wonder to be a huge pressure point elsewhere on the map as well, and it just gives G2 so many options. This was his performance on the world stage yesterday. An impressive KDA still yet to die, a huge kill participation, and you can see a huge damage percentage, for his team overall as well. Therefore, I hypothesize that we're never going to see it again. I don't think anyone is going to give this champion away. So that is all on Hjarnen's Heimerdinger. Now, before we go, I urged Hjarnen to share some words of wisdom on what makes a great Heimer. He said, in order to be a great Heimer, if you can't heal him or cure him, you simply bury him. We're going to take a break, but there's more Worlds Countdown after the break, so make sure you don't go anywhere.
I actually thought, like before, I said that EU was gonna be pretty bad, but I think I was wrong. I have more and more hope. EU this year is better as a whole region.
Oh, baby, here we go. It's the Afreeca Freaks versus G2 Esports. Here we go, mid. Archer's gonna be drowsy, but the damage comes in from G2, and Yarnan picks up Kuro.
What a game from G2 Esports. They get the Heimerdinger for Yarnan in the bottom lane.
I think this year, for sure, the Korean teams are weaker.
Here we go.
Vitality's looking to end it. They're pushing Nexus turret number 2.
Let's go, boys. Keep pushing.
Genji is rushing to Nexus, but Vitality will take them down. Europe 2-0 against Korea.
If this is how good Vitality is, if this is how good G2 is, imagine what their first seed's going to do. Fnatic, like just absolute monsters.
This is probably one of the best opportunities I've had throughout my career to make some noise on the international stage. In the long run, we will show up to be one of the best teams at this tournament.
Does this mean that we lose all faith in Korea for having that loss here on day one?
2 losses. No one is going to say that Korea aren't still heavy favorites. The fact of the matter is that we hope that Genji will show back up.
Maybe you excuse it and say first game, it's Gen G, they'll get there. They have RNG.
These 2 teams have a long-standing history with each other. They constantly seem to find each other in the group stage. This is very possibly a look at a finals.
작년에 이제 우승을 하긴 했지만 저희가 스프링, 썸머 모두 다 고전을 하고 선발전도 겨우 올랐기 때문에 디펜딩 챔피언이라기보다는 도전자의 느낌이 더 강한 것 같아요.
No chance to even participate in League of Legends.
It's games like this that remind you that RNG are this overwhelming favorite in Worlds 2018.
今年我们就算很顺利吧，就基本上没有在什么大赛上遇到太多的挫折，所以我觉得今年的话目标就只有世界冠军。
Welcome back to the World's Countdown. We're about 9 minutes away from game 1, and as we count down towards our first game, Jat has a chance to make our lives absolutely miserable yet again in this World's edition.
Oh, my
Jat
first time.
stats.
Yeah.
Yeah, get ready for it.
too.
Strap in. It's not fun.
I think these stats are totally doable. We have 3 today, and they're all about Worlds group stages of years past. So I've isolated it to since we've had this format, which is since 2014. That's what all these stats are related to. So since that format has been adopted of 4 groups of 4, how many teams have gone undefeated in the group stage? And for bonus points, name the teams.
All right, we get to work together, right?
Yeah, we can work together. Four years, 4 groups of 4.
Yeah, so 16 possible times for someone to go undefeated.
SKT and
And this is just Worlds.
Is it
Just
unique
Worlds.
teams, or
Worlds
like
groups.
if SKT did it twice, that counts as
It's
2?
just like if SKT did it twice, it would count as 2.
Okay, just clarify.
We can name 2, SKT
Yes.
2015 and also Longzhu last year.
Yeah.
That's 2.
Anything else
ones.
jumping out at you?
No, not since 2014.
It'd be 2 or 3 is my guess.
2 or 3
4 would be
sounds
up
about
to the
right.
ultra maximum. I think it's 2 or 3.
I'm gonna go with
Lock
3.
it
I'm gonna
in.
say there's a team in there that we're missing.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go with 3.
I think 2 though.
I think 2 is a reasonable guess.
Oscar?
I say 2.
3.
Okay.
2014 Samsung.
It's all right. You guys will get better at this. You get better. I've had some practice. I've had some
This
practice.
might be the first time in the history of Jazz Chats that Dash has gotten it right and the
I'm
others have
okay
gotten
with
it wrong.
that. That's fine.
So question number
Is this
2
computer on?
has to do with group draws, and this actually includes this year. So this is 5 years worth of group draws.
Okay.
Which major region since 2014 has been grouped with Korea? I'm going to say the highest percentage of times, since the LMS only has 2 teams. So if we did raw numbers, that wouldn't count.
Well, see, it's skewed.
See,
'cause
that
I
makes
know-
me think it is the
Has
LMS.
NA, EU, KR, or the LMS been grouped with Korea?
I know
the
that
most?
That statement alone
The
makes me
LMS
think
used to have the highest win record against
Exactly.
Korea, and then it was
the
China.
whole Korean killers. You know,
Cloud9 and SKT in the same group all the
it's
time.
true. There's been quite a number of times that they've ended up together.
Oh.
I think it's the LMS.
Okay.
I think it's LMS or NA
I'm gonna say NA.
for sure.
Okay. So you're going to say the LMS.
Yeah.
Papa Smith's going to say the NA. You could still pick
It's
China
been
or
North
Europe,
America,
The NA.
Dad.
NA.
Or you can side with one of the NAs.
I'm gonna go.
Remember,
I'm gonna go
can-
Flash Wolves. I'm gonna go Flash Wolves.
Okay.
Or I mean LMS. Sorry.
Yeah, I was basically the same
Just
thing.
only Flash Wolves.
HQ.
Wrong, right.
Yes! NA cost.
80% of the time it's happened to NA, 12 out of 15 times. Flash Wolves
So we
are
have
in
our
so
How's
much.
NA doing in those?
Flash, so the LMS is actually the lowest percentage. They rarely get grouped with Koreans.
Really?
What
Yeah.
do you guys know, huh?
Nothing. Yeah. Well, nothing apparently.
All right, final one.
Here we go.
Match the region with the group stage win percentage. This is standard group stage. So NA, EU have played 72 games. The LMS has played 48
EU
games.
45.8. LMS
NA,
43.
LMS went like 1
No, I
and 6
think
2
LMS is
years
the
in a
lowest. You think it's
row.
the
They're the
lowest?
lowest.
I would say, yeah, EU
Okay.
and A.
Yeah, I would say.
Just the
EU,
other
and
numbers, like
LMS.
Korea's an 82% win rate.
NA
China's a
43.
55.6% win
All right,
rate.
that's fair.
So you guys match. You're going LMS 39. You're going NA 43 and EU 50.
Yeah.
45.
I mean, they've convinced me
46.
with the
We're
argument
all in
of
alignment.
the Flash rule. Yeah, some of the poor years from
Let's go
LMS.
for it.
Yeah.
And having small.
You were close, but NA has a 45.8 group stage
Wait.
win percentage.
How many times did you check that?
I said standard.
You know,
group
I
stage.
should have known. I should have
This-
known he would have cherry picked this
this
stat
does not
because NA
include
looks
tiebreakers.
better.
Go for it.
Standard group stage. Standard group stage.
Oh my
72
God.
games. I was very specific in my language.
That even disappoints me. That even disappoints
That is
me.
a dirty stat.
Higher
right.
win percentage.
Well, Jats had his. You're making me go tongue-tied.
fun.
Jats had his
Yeah.
fair share of fun. Frost, what do you got for us?
Okay, I have a fun game. We're gonna do Frost Facts, and we're
Okay.
gonna play. I know they have no idea this is going to happen.
It's even
And
got alliteration.
I'm gonna ask you 3 questions. You're gonna tell me who I am. I'm a favorite in my group. I've appeared in 7 international events, 3 MSIs, and this is my 4th World Championship. And the only international best of 5 I've won is against Gambit.
7
clear,
international
love.
events. This is all international.
You've been to, 3 MSIs. This is the 4th World Championship, and they've only won a single best of 5.
Interesting. You think it's clear love on EDG?
well, hold on. I was thinking 7 international events.
This is only Riot.
Only international best of 5 I won would be against Gambit.
Tick-tock, gentlemen.
Favorite in group. So it's not clear love. They've beaten Gambit. And
So it's not Cloud9 because they're not
so
favorite in the group.
it's not Moscow 5 either.
No?
3
No,
outside
they
from
beat
Express.
Gambit. So it was more recent in terms of when they had that best of 5 win.
When do I?
Whenno has.
When's the
like
white
30
flag?
seconds.
When do you gloat? Is that what you're wondering?
Yeah.
When do you
Is it
gloat?
Carson?
give us
Probably
a
Carson.
moment.
This is tough.
Is this a single player?
hard.
We're talking single player.
It's a team.
It's
Oh, it's a team. We're just doing a
Come
team.
on, favorite in the group. Who are your
you're
favorites
saying,
to win?
You're saying it's a team.
It's a
Yes.
team.
Sure. How do you define favorites? Yeah, I'll go Flash Wolves.
Is that your final answer?
Sure.
Boom! He got it.
Wow.
There you go.
It is the Flash
We were
Wolves.
talking through it. It made the most
Yeah.
sense.
The Flash Wolves have been to every single semifinal for every MSI that they've attended. They have
always lose
only
it.
exited Worlds Group Stage once, and they immediately were knocked
they've
out
lost.
in quarterfinals by Origin.
Those best of 5.
So right now, they're looking pretty hot and heavy. First game of our day, but this is a complete reversal for Flash Wolves, who seem to be spring contenders, but summer pretenders.
True?
All right, well, we got 3 minutes until game 1. We've got Afreeca Freaks who need to shake off an unexpected loss to prevent an 0-2 start up here against the Flash Wolves.
Yeah, and we have to remember that Afreeca lost to G2 yesterday. But as Papa Smithy mentioned, he doesn't think there is necessarily a need to panic. And we both did predict Afreeca in this game, despite Frost claiming the Flash Wolves is the favorite in the group now. But what do you think?
I think we have to see today what their world style will be. We saw yesterday, deprioritize Keen, get Kramer going on a very farmed Kaiser. Couldn't get fed, but very, very farmed. I think today, remind us of how you got here, whether that's Spirit actually performing in the early games. Talia wasn't great. Go to one of his comfort picks, I think. And Keen also away from the tanks and on a true threat on the top side.
All right, let's flip over to the other side then. The opponents from the LMS secured a dominating win on day 1, but their matchup today might give us a better picture of their actual power level.
And again, I think the Flash Wolves are just playing the best League of Legends that they really ever have. I think they don't get much higher than this. I do agree with the point about Hanabi. He definitely fell behind about 20 CS on the Aatrox versus Urgot matchup. Really didn't go into his favor, but I don't think Flash Wolves will make that same mistake again. Now, we saw Hanabi a completely different performance at MSI, very much praised for his top lane performance, and I expect him to go back to that form, especially if he wants to go toe-to-toe with Keen. But otherwise, I look at the Flash Wolves. They play fast, they play furious. This is a style that Korea across the board has been struggling with, save for their fastest team in KT. So even if Afreeca do turn up today, I think stylistically, it's still weighted towards the Flash Wolves, which is why I support them.
Interesting. So when we talk about returning to form for Afreeca, though, I know you've hit on a few things, including the top laner and Spirit in the jungle. But you know what is return? How would you label their playstyle? So you know, if we talk about Flash Wolves fast, you know, fast paced, in your
Shoot
face,
from the hip.
lane, yeah, shoot from the hip. Like, what's that? You know, 40 mile an hour on horseback.
The sharpest
fragment
memories
you're
of
gonna give me?
Afreeca is when they have a really good meta read.
Yes.
Right? A lot of people will reference the best of 5 where they pulled out a Malphite to counterpick the Camille, and then they also had, what was it, a Vel'Koz in the mid lane when other people weren't playing.
Big favorite of Kuro.
Stuff like that is where you see them shine. And I also do feel like you see them shine when they play through the top lane. And on the topic of Flash Wolves, I agree this is a great meta for them, and they looked amazing yesterday, and they've been undefeated basically in LMS this year. I also think those cases have been true before in the past. And I feel like every time Flash Wolves is super hyped, they perform in the middle or bad. And when they're underhyped, they perform at the top or in the middle. And I do feel like we're reaching a little bit of a fever pitch with Flash Wolves hype this year, which is why I'm thinking it might fall back down against Afreeca.
And when Afreeca made it all the way to the final of spring season, we would often use terms like download. They'd download the enemy team. They'd know what their tendencies were and find a counter strategy. They have Comet and also their secondary coach there, Zephyr, who are very good at researching enemy teams. And you saw the interview from Keen that came through InVen Global where they said, well, we didn't really think about the enemy team too much yesterday. You know, we weren't really putting too much stock in them. But the glass half full side of that is that they prepared extensively for the Flash Wolves. And if Flash Wolves stay true to their style, I have to, given this whole year of play, have the benefit of the doubt that they will have a true strategy for Flash Wolves prepared.
Yeah, and I know it makes for better desk segments when we take strong stances on either side of these matchups, but I think this is it's a toss-up game, in my opinion. And I'm just like, I guess Afreeca for the top lane, right? Because I do feel like both these teams have shown some really good stuff in the past month or two.
Well, it's time to kick off today's action, so let's head over to Pastry, Vedius, and Azael for Game 1.
Thank you, Dash, and welcome to Game 1 of Flash Wolves versus Afreeca Freaks. I'm Julian Pastry Time Card, joined by the sous chef and maitre d' of my newest newest food truck, by the way, Andrew Vedius Day and Isaac Azael Cummings Bentley. I believed we settled on something between Welsh and poutine.
Yeah, that's kind of where we're edging
Work in
towards.
progress still for the name, for sure.
Happy to be here with you fine gentlemen. We've got some wonderful games ahead of us today. Azael, your second cast, because you did the best of 5 earlier in the plan as well. So we got some cool stuff coming away. I'm really excited for Afreeca versus Flash Wolves. As the analyst said, it is a bit of a toss-up between the two teams. We're kind of unsure as to what to expect, considering Afreeca's loss yesterday and Flash was pretty dominant way.
And also the fact that Afreeca kind of went away a little bit from how they performed oftentimes in the summer split. You know, not just that they had a bad game, but it was very much keen on carries throughout most of the summer split. More of a focus around playing around Kuro and Keen on the top side. Yesterday, they were much more about trying to get Kramer ahead, trying to protect him on the Kai'Sa, and it certainly did fall flat. So I'm interested to see if they stick more with that style against a very bot-focused team in Flash Wolves, or if they're going to go back to that top side focus.
Yeah, I think that a lot of hype and expectations have been built up around Keen, and when we think back to the world's top 20, our top analysts all predicted Keen to be the 4th best player in the world, and it is a bit of a curse over the years, but we'll see if he's able to shape things up as we jump into